Hello, everyone. It is July 5th. I got Milu next to me, and it's time for today's afternoon devotional and Bible study. Today, we will be reading through Jesus is Calling for today, and also continuing our journey through the book of Ezekiel with Ezekiel chapter 47. And before we get to all of that, we're going to jump into the devotional. Jesus is calling to start things off for today, July 5th. It is a hot one out there, so hopefully you find a way to cool down. Let's get started. Draw near to me with a thankful heart, aware that your cup is overflowing with blessings. Gratitude enables you to perceive me more clearly and rejoice in our love relationship. Nothing can separate you from my loving presence. That is the basis of your security. Whenever you start to feel anxious, remind yourself that your security rests in me alone. I am totally trustworthy. You will never be in control of your life circumstances, but you can relax and trust in my control. Instead of striving for a predictable, safe lifestyle, seek to know me in greater depth and depth and breadth. I long to make your life a glorious adventure, but you must stop clinging to old ways. I am always doing something new within my beloved ones. Be on the lookout for all that I prepared for you. And that was inspired by 3 different sections of the Bible. For I am convinced that neither life nor death, neither angels nor demons, neither the present or the future, nor any powers, neither height nor depth, or anything else in all creation will be able to separate us from the love of God that is in Christ Jesus our Lord. Romans 8:38 and 39. And then, when I am afraid, I will trust in you. In God, whose word I praise in God I trust. I will not be afraid. What can mortal man do to me? Psalm 56:34. Then lastly, see, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? Am I making a way in the desert that streams in the wasteland? Isaiah 43:19. And I like that. I like a couple things in here. One, like that gratitude enables us to see God more closely and see our relationship more closely. There is a big push against contentment, and we talked about that. Knowing when enough is enough, and to stop begging and crawling and just asking for more. Whenever you feel anxious, just reminding yourself that God is with us and He's our protector. And that idea of I long to make your life a glorious adventure, but you must stop clinging to the old ways. I'm doing something new within my beloved ones. Be on the lookout for all that I have prepared for you. And especially with where we are right now in this pandemic, that idea of, not clinging to the ways that things used to be. As things start opening up, just being like, I want to return to where things were. We've just gone through globally this brand new experience. Some things are going to go back to how they were, but maybe God wants us to move in a way that's different than where we were too. or if we're going back to the same things that we were, maybe with a different attitude and um, a way to just get more or something different out of those circumstances. Um, so be on the lookout for whatever that new thing is that's coming up. So with that, we're going to get ready to jump back into the book of Ezekiel. We are nearing the end of Ezekiel. It has been, 47 ish days of going through this. A couple of ones I doubled up. But Ezekiel has been a challenging book in a lot of different ways. The Israelite people just rejecting God, committing adultery and atrocities, murdering and sacrificing babies, getting murdered and running away from themselves, people looking to kick them and plunder them when they're down, and God stepping in, scattering, bringing them back, rebuilding, and entrusting. And that's kind of the stage that we've been at for the last few chapters of God just reestablishing his place amongst the Israelites people as they have gone through the tremendous and traumatic experience of purifying I'm going to say purifying themselves, but like God was in it. But going through that purification process where they were letting go of some of those old things that were actually quite negative. And they were letting go of the sin that they led into their lives. When they were letting go of these other false gods that were entering into their minds, their hearts, and their practices in their churches. When God forgave leadership, hi Joxer, but didn't let them necessarily get back into these positions of teaching and stuff. So God's been reestablishing, giving them a new, refound hope when things seemed at their darkest, and when people weren't willing to listen to the prophet, when they weren't willing to really listen to God. They just wanted to be told that what they were doing was right, get a pat on the back, and then be like, go continue on sinning, my boy. You've been justified in what you're doing. There's a lot of times, a lot of biblical teachers that will twist and manipulate the word to say, oh, the sin that you've been struggling with, it's okay, don't worry about it because of this reason. That is, at its best, a stretch of what the Bible actually says, or a very narrow look at the context and not reading things through. And false teachers has been this ongoing theme as well, and that let's move past these false human teachers and start looking at God. And we have that privilege of being able to pick up, carry, and read for ourselves, in which really throughout human history, having the Bible, to be able to read it in our own language, is something that hasn't been able to do throughout most of history. A lot of history and a lot of like the religious wars were from preachers, studying foreign languages, reading some of the manuscripts, and they were this middle person between the Word of God, the written Word of God, and the people. But now we don't have that. We can get into it for ourselves. And with that, let's jump into Ezekiel chapter 47. And I encourage you to read along with me. Ezekiel is Ezekiel, Ezekiel, starting chapter 47, verse 1. Just going to take a sip. I like that stuff. It's made with cane sugar, which takes me back to some mission trips and stuff like that I've been on. But anyways, Ezekiel 47, verse 1. In my vision, the man brought me back to the entrance of the temple. There I saw a stream flowing east from beneath the door of the temple and passing to the right of the altar on its south side. The man brought me outside the wall through the north gate and led me around to the eastern entrance. There I could see the water flowing out through the south side of the east gate. Measuring as he went, he took me along the stream for over 1,750 feet and led me across the water and led me across, period. Sorry. The water was up to my ankles. He measured off another 175 feet and led me across again. This time the water was up to my knees. After another 1,750 feet, it was up to my waist. Then he measured another 175 feet, and the water was too deep to walk across. It was deep enough to swim in, but too deep to walk through. He asked me, "Have you been watching, son of man?" Then he led me back along the riverbank. When I returned, I was surprised by the sight of many trees growing on both sides of the river. Then he said to me, "This river flows east, through the desert, into the valley of the Dead Sea. The waters of this stream will make the salty water of the Dead Sea fresh and pure. There will be swarms of living things wherever the water of this river flows. Fish will be abound in the Dead Sea, for its waters will become fresh. Life will flourish wherever this water flows. Fishermen will stand along the shores of the Dead Sea, all the way from En-Gedi to the En-Gilium. The shores will be covered with nets, drying in the sun. Fish of every kind will fill the Dead Sea, just as they filled the Mediterranean. But the marshes and swamps will never be purified. They will still be salty. Fruit trees of all kinds will grow along both sides of the river. The leaves of these trees will never turn brown and fall, and there will always be fruit on their branches. There will be a new crop every month, for they are watered by the river flowing from the temple. The fruit will be for food, and the leaves for healing." Boundaries of the land. This is what the sovereign Lord says. "Divide the land in this way. For the 12 tribes of Israel, the descendants of Joseph will be given 2 shares of land. Otherwise, each tribe will receive an equal share. I took a solemn oath and swore that I would give this land to your ancestors, and it will now come to you as your possession. These are the boundaries of the land. The northern border will run from the Mediterranean toward Hethlon, then on through Lebo Hamath to Zedad. Then it will run to Bethora and Sebram, which are on the border between Damascus and Hamath, and finally to Hetikon, on the border of Haron. So the northern border will run from the Mediterranean to Hezeron, on the border between Hamath and the north, and Damascus to the south. The eastern border starts at a point between Haran and Damascus and runs south along the Jordan River, between Israel and Gilead, past the Dead Sea, and as far south as Tamar. This will be the eastern border. The southern border will go west from Tamar to the waters of Methbath and Kedesh, and then follow the course of the brook of Egypt to the Mediterranean. This will be the southern border. On the west side of the Mediterranean itself will be your border from the southern border to the point where the northern border begins, opposite Lebo Hamath. Divide the land within these borders among the tribes of Israel. Distribute the land. Hey, Joxer. Come on, bud. Sorry. Going to. Uh, I'll continue from verse 22. Distribute the land as an allotment for yourselves and for the foreigners who have joined you and are raising their families among you. They will be like native-born Israelites to you and will receive an annulment among the tribes. These foreigners are to be given land within the territory of the tribe with whom they now live. I, the sovereign Lord, have spoken. May God add a blessing to the reading of His word. There's a couple of interesting things in here that I want to get to. The first is one of the parts written in blue that foreshadows something in the New Testament that kind of revolves around Jesus in some way. So Ezekiel 47:12, fruit trees of all kinds will grow along both sides of the river. The leaves of these trees will never turn brown and fall. There will always be fruit on their branches, and there will be a new crop every month, for they are watered by the river flowing from the temple. The fruit will be for food, and the leaves for healing. In Ezekiel's vision, water flows from the temple of Jerusalem, and any tree growing by these flowing waters is supposed to produce fruit perpetually. Jesus refers to himself as the temple, and he later curses a fig tree that has no fruit on it because it's not producing fruit in his presence. Matthew 21:18 and 19. I like that. It's kind of interesting, not producing fruit in his presence. And him being that temple, and he's the source of living water. And yeah, that's one of the things, like, in the actual place where this is, the trees are still earthly trees, but there's always something kind of happening around there. I don't know much about the Dead Sea. I do know a bit of things about it, so it's kind of interesting. I'm excited to get into it and look into it a little bit more. But you have this thing that was dead that is going to be reintroduced with life, which is a big metaphor for even the Israelites who were dead in their sin, and their actions brought death to the land. And now that God is restoring and reuniting and reconciling himself with the Israelites during this time, it's bringing healing not only to, like, the mountainside but also to the rivers, which is also a really cool sign, because the Pharaoh was like, I created this water, watch as I bless it. And God was like, no, you didn't. And basically drew a curse on the waters type deal. And now God's also now blessing the water because of their actions. So there's that connection between our actions and what we do and how we function and how it impacts, like, nature either positively or negatively around us, which is that an interesting thing that's kind of really coming out of here, and that's been teased at throughout a lot of this. And there's been a lot of that talk about the land and how it has reacted to a lot of the negativity that's been going on. But now we're seeing that as God heals the people, he's also healing the land. And through that difficult purification process that they've been on, reminds me a little bit about what's happening in our world with COVID-19. As a lot of the world started to shut down, the planet almost got to breathe again. Like countries where you could not see the sky because of smog, after only a couple days, like, they could see blue skies again for the first time in decades in some cases. I was reading and looking at pictures of stories from India where they literally could not see the sky, and after 2 days limited travel and everything else, like they could see the sky again. And holy cow, their environment in that world, and the sigh of relief that the planet must have had during that time. It's interesting. And then you have like their borderlands and everything. Everyone gets their piece, and God is distributing them to their piece, not equally though, which is also kind of interesting. He looks at, I think it was the descendants of Joseph will be given 2 shares of land, and everyone else gets one. So there is a little bit of extra stuff there, which is kind of interesting in and of itself, showing that sometimes God will bless others more than some other people. Um, the motivations why, we don't know, but it doesn't mean just because we don't get the same blessings as someone else, just because we don't get the same um, blank, same spiritual gift, same money, same revelation for kind of purposes in life, and so on and so forth. Just because we might lack what someone else gets and receives from God, doesn't mean that God has been silent and blank and unblessing towards us. And so many times when we look at others instead of God, we can get uncontent, and we can start pursuing things, and we can feel like God's more silent in our lives because, well, he didn't bless me like he blessed them, and therefore is there something wrong with me? And if there's something wrong with me, what can I do to fix it? Notice how I'm saying a lot of me, I, and myself in those statements. Where was Jesus? Jesus was only in, well, he gave something to someone else. And then there's that little bit of like, what are they doing that I'm not doing? And yeah, it starts taking focus off of God and puts it negatively inward, right? So instead of focusing on those blessings, you can be like, all right, that's good. Awesome for them. May they use it how God desires them to use it. How has God blessed me, and how can I use my giftings? Is then that next question. How can I use my giftings that God gave me for God and for others, right? Like, there a bit of an inward focus? There is. There's a bit of self-reflection, but it's not a negative one. It's more of a searching for that hope and recognition, and reaffirming of that relationship, and how God sees you and is going to use you, and how he has blessed you, and how he'll continue to bless you. And the last thing that really I thought was really, really cool about this, in verse 22, distribute the land as an allowment for yourselves and for the foreigners who have joined you and are raising families among you. They will be like native-born Israelites to you, and will receive an allotment along with the tribes. Foreigners being treated as native-born Israelites. God is saying, I desire not just to be those that are born to these specific people in the specific bloodline, but for the whole world. We see the glimpse of this, like it's fully explored in the New Testament, but these foreigners that are living amongst them are to be treated as native-born Israelites. God, yes, he chose the Israelites people to, and the Jewish people to kind of work through and show and showcase stuff. And Jesus comes in through, the word becomes flesh in Jesus through a Jewish bloodline. But here you have these foreigners that are treated like native-born citizens, which shows that desire for others. I am not part of a Jewish bloodline, according to my DNA report on 23andMe. I don't have that, but I've been grafted in. I've been welcomed in. I was a foreigner. who is now part of that Christian walk in that, and I'm invited to follow Christ. And that extends beyond faith, right? It extends to our very real world, I believe. Who are the foreigners who have moved here that are raising their families and doing life here, that maybe we need to treat a little bit more like Canadians? So yeah, there's a lot in this little passage. At the last little bit, I think I said that for the last point, but I thought of another bit. Those songs about the river, Take Me Down to the River. There's a ton of songs about rivers. And there's that idea of like this Dead Sea being the river, and it's now being brought with life, and every new crop and everything will grow, and there's going to be fish and food and rest and relievement from the heat, but also the fruit trees and the leaves are going to be for healing. Coming down to the river is this illustration for relief and healing and the restoration of life. And I just think that's a really cool thing. So yes, let's pray now. So tomorrow is the last one with Ezekiel. I'm definitely not going to be able to do Thursday, and then I'm probably going to be gone for a couple weeks because I'm going to take a week of vacation. Then there's some painting at the door as we get ready for the fall, and some exciting potential things that are going to be happening, but I don't want to make any promises just yet. So there's some really awesome things that are just on the horizon that I'm really looking forward to. But I will be taking a couple weeks off, so I might do something on Wednesday. I haven't thought of what that might be yet. It just might be reading through one of my favorite verses in the Bible, or maybe sharing a little bit of my story. Who knows? But for now, let's pray about everything that we've read and learned through the Jesus is Calling and Ezekiel chapter 47. AJC, awesome Jesus Christ. I thank you so much for your word, and how, an allotment of land can be so, energizing, and there's a lot that we can learn and a lot that we can apply today in our world. For you restoring a river and what that means for our lives today, even though this happened almost 3,000 years ago. This is something that impacts our lives today, and there's lessons from this that apply to us today. I thank you for how your word transforms so much of this stuff, and I thank you that we can read your word unlike so many people throughout our history. Lord, may we not be jealous of other people's gifts and giftings, and just embrace the ones that we have and learn how to use them towards you, and just even learn what they are. Lord, thank you for all the ways that you guide us and you direct us. May you help us to just see how you want to restore us, how you want to love on us, and how we want to bear fruit in your presence, Lord. As we accept and get nourished in life from the living water, help us to produce the fruits of the Spirit: kindness, patience, kindness, goodness, self-control. I'm forgetting what they all are, Lord. Off the top of my head, there's the song with it, and I always mess up the song. But yeah, help us to develop those fruits of the Spirit, and help us to be good representatives of you, not just only at church, at the grocery store, as we're walking around town, as we're biking around town, as we're driving, but also even within our homes. And Lord, help us to treat everyone that calls here home as people that belong here. Let us to extend love to them as neighbors. Not only as Canadians, but as Christians, as people that have different experiences with you, whether they come from a different life and they get to know you and then they get welcomed in, or just even different expressions of faith. If they're from Compass or the Well or Covenant Alliance or the Reformed Church or the Message or any of the churches around town, like Good Friends or wherever, that we just don't kind of throw them out for whatever reason, but help us to embrace them. Help us get over our own prejudices that we may have. Lord, thank you so much for all the ways that you love us and you guide us. Help us to focus on you and not on others and what they have that we don't. Not to focus on ourselves and not to think of ourselves higher or lower than we should. But help us to see you at work. Thank you, Lord. And thank you for this day. And I pray for all of those that don't have air conditioning, that are going to be struggling in these hot days, Lord. For all the people along BC, where forest fires and stuff like that are happening. Pray for protection for nature as as we influence the world around us. I lift up BC, Lord, and how our actions literally have places burning on fire. May you bring healing to the land once again. And thank you for restoring us, to re-inviting us. Thank you, Lord. Amen. All right. Well, have a fantastic Monday. Enjoy the sun. Don't forget about YU Chat. It's on from noon till midnight every weekday. And yeah, have a fantastic day. God bless.